In this video, we will talk about working with Azure Cost Management with using Azure Python SDK. So here, I'm going to help you with a script which will get you the cost per day of an Azure resources. Or you have a list of resources and you want to get the cost per day of that particular resources at a real-time value and that too programmatically, right? So this video will help you to understand how we can elevate the Azure Python SDKs to retrieve that data in a bulk amount, and then later you can use it for analytical purpose, reporting purpose, or any kind of automation purpose you can use it. So this video is to enable you to understand how to write the script and how to use it for your automations. Now this is my Azure portal. So here I have a subscription like this. In this subscription I have the an RG, and that RG has the two resources for now. So it has two resources as well. Now I go to the my Azure subscriptions. You know that you can see this bill here, whatever you see here, and there is an option for cost analysis. So if you click on that, you're going to get the cost analysis. This is something like you can see visually, but in case of automations, in case of some analytics, you need to retrieve the values dynamically per resources per day. So in such cases, this is how you need to do that. So for that case, I have prepared a script, which is a Python script, as you see here. This script uses the Azure Python SDKs, and the script has a certain function. So it has one function being written. I'm going to walk you through this code first. That is a code walkthrough I will do, and then we will see a demo like how does this script works. So here, before we use the script, so there are little bit about the modules that we have used in the Python. So here I'm using the Python SDK modules for Azure, which includes Azure Management, Cost Management, and Azure Identity. So I did a pip installation for these two like this. So if I show you, so these are all the prerequisites that you have to have in your system ready, then only the script will work as expected. So first what we are doing is we are actually doing a pip install of Azure Management hyphen Cost Management, and then we are doing the pip install for Azure Identity as well. Once this has been done, so we have set the prerequisite one. Now let me walk you through this code, that is this Python script, and then we will go for a how you need to execute it. Right. So here, this is a very simple script. By the way, I'm going to share this script in the video description. You can use it, and when you use it, modify it according to your resource IDs, and then it will help you to get the cost of a resource per day. So here you see that as I have installed a couple of Azure Python SDK modules. So in this one, we are using the cost management module of Python. So this is something you have to import it, like Azure management.costmanagement.modules. From there, we are importing the query definitions, and then from identity, that is Azure.identity, we are importing the default Azure credentials, because this is a demo. So I am running this script from my laptop where I'm going to log into the Azure with using the AGCLI. So this script will reuse the AGCLI credentials, and then that's the reason we are using the default Azure credentials, and then we are actually importing the another module underneath the cost management, that is cost management client. Then of course the others are the date and time models that is needed, because when we query the cost data uh, to the cost management service, we have to provide the start and date, and that is the reason we use these modules. Now in this one, so this is very simple. This is a list of resource ID. So to get the resource ID, you have to follow something process. So to get this resource ID, you have to again go back to your resource group, get the resource ID something like this. So in my case, I'm just testing it with using the storage account. So to get the resource ID, you can get the resource ID by using multiple methods. But using the UI, you can do something like this. Click on a storage account, and you go to the configuration somewhere here and try to see the endpoint. So click on endpoints. Here is your storage account resource ID. So you need to copy this. And that is what exactly I have did it and copy pasted this, right? And I have formatted a variable that is Python list variable. So this is resource ID variable. It has a value of Python list, and that is has to have the syntax has to be satisfied. That is all about there. And then here is where we are creating the credentials. So here we are elevating the default credentials and creating a cost client out of it. So where we are using the cost management client, passing the credentials, so it will create a cost client here. And this is where we are creating a start date and end date that you can have a look into it. So basically start and end date, here I'm something customizing like, from first date of this month to till today, right? And that is what the start date and end date is happening, because here I'm retrieving the value of the cost of a resource per month, right? And that is where we are doing it. And this is the scope is nothing but, on which scope it would be a management group, it would be subscription, or it would be RG, right? So on which scope you are doing, so that ID has to be kept it here. Since in my case this is subscription, so I have given a subscription ID. Note that it is not just a ID, you have to give full ARM ID. The ARM ID constitutes of / subscription and the subscription ID. For management group, it should be management ARM ID has to be given there. Then the day of the month. So today's date 16th. So that's the reason, nothing but give the date of the existing month. And then this is the function definition which we have created for extracting the cost information of a resource per day. So that this function has a lot of parameters. It includes query definition, which is basically a module. That is, query definition is a module being passed as an input here. So you might be wondering, yes, I'm passing the module as an input here. Then the time random cost line that we have created above, this is a resource ID, is nothing but the list of resource ID. You can give different resource IDs as well, not a problem. You can give like a storage account, VM, complete resource ID can be put it across. And then the query, the query scope. So you need to give the scope of the query that we have formed here. Start date, end date, and day of the month. So these are all the parameters we are passing. And down the line, so here is, I have constructing certain static variable within the function that includes a retry, delay, attempt, maximum retries, and cost list. So these are all the variables I'm creating. The first three variables are being created for exponential backup, because when we hit the cost management APIs of Azure, the cost management API, generally throws a maximum retry errors. So in such cases, we have to invoke the Python SDK's APIs multiple times so that we get a response. So that's the reason the exponential backup loop is being used. That is nothing but I have used a while loop until I get the response, and running this loop for 5 times. So that is the reason we have these variables being set for exponential backup. And VM cost list, so you can just ignore the VM cost list for now. So and also ignore the the name of the function. This is just a generic name, you can consider it like that. So the VM cost list nothing but the collection of cost list, like that, right? So this is nothing but it is just a variable which will collect the cost information in the form of a list. Here we are doing a while loop, that is until the attempt is at the initiation, it is 0. When the attempt is smaller than equal to the maximum retry, or smaller than 5, or basically 0 1 2 3 4, so it will try for 4 times, right? And then 4 times this complete try and catch block will work. So here if you see, this is where we are actually using the Python SDK functions for invoking the APIs. That is where this is the syntax that you have to follow, and this syntax is from Microsoft, not from me. So this is the query definition, and this is something, in this query definition we are having a type equal to usage, time frame equal to custom, time period equal to, you see that the start date string and the end date string that we have constructed above. So that is being elevated here. In the data sets, you see that in the data set that you are retrieving or asking for is monthly. Filter is equal to based on resource ID, which is present inside this particular list. Groupings, group by resource ID, and the definition. So these are all nothing but you just use it as it is. And aggregation is something like this, right? Once you have that query definition ready, which is basically a, so this query definition is nothing but it is basically a tuple, right? And that is being passed here. So now we are using the cost client and calling a function called query. Within the function, you are calling another sub function that is actually, so this is a class basically. We are within the client, from the cost client, calling a class called query. From that class, you are calling a function called usage. The usage has the syntax or parameter called scope. The scope value that you've seen, that is nothing but our Azure subscription. The parameters is nothing but query definition that we have seen above, and that's it. So this is how you are actually invoking the cost usage to the Azure Cost Management client, and that is where we are getting a response. So this response sometimes it will throw an error saying like busy, because Microsoft has hardly set the query response. You cannot oftenly invoke the APIs to the cost management service oftenly. They are being restricted, so you need to invoke it very limited time. That's the reason I have added this block into a exponential backup. So then this is where we are getting the result, that is dictionary result, and we are printing the result. From the result, we are extracting the values, that is nothing but the resource ID and what is the cost. So that is what we are doing from the, you see that from the dictionary result, we are extracting the rows. From the rows, we are again further extracting the each rows, and then we are using that empty Python list and adding the dictionary in it. The dictionary constitute of key value equal to ID, and the value is equal to nothing but the ID of the resources. Cost key is having, and the value of that cost key is nothing but the value that is returned divided by day of the month. The day of the month is nothing but the what is the current date, right? So, and actually when we are doing a cost query, we are getting the how much this resource is costed in this month from the day one, right? And that value is divided by the date of the today, and that gives the cost of a resources per day. That is the logic here. And then just to accommodate the error situations, I have added again some few more condition check. If this cost list has some value in it, if yes, then we want to get that, we want to get the IDs. From the IDs, I want to iterate it and check if the IDs are there. In the sense, this is basically, if you see here I'm passing a resource ID, which is an explicit input list. So is all the resources of the list that I have inputted has been fetched for the cost data. In some cases, as per my experience, it will not fetch the data. So that's the reason this for loop is all about. Wherever the value is not fetched, I want to make the value equal to cost equal to 0 for the convention purpose. So this is what the logic is been done here. You can look into the code afterwards as well. And then in else condition also we are doing the same thing. That is, if value is not returned after a couple of things, after a couple of retries, then you are actually by default setting the value equal to 0 and returning it. That is what been done for the two else conditions. And this is where in the exception, right? So whenever the query does not use a proper response, the loop comes directly into the exception, and exception has the logic to iterate the next iteration of exponential backup, where we are where we are incrementing the attempt variable to +1 and checking if the attempt is smaller than maximum retry. If not, you are creating a exponential sleep time and trying to sleep this code for that much amount of time. And then once this has been done, it will again go for next iteration. If the if condition is not satisfied, then it will go to the else, where it says that the maximum retry and now attempt is breached, or maximum attempt is completed. And then we are actually returning the default value, that is cost equal to 0, right? So that is all about the VM per day cost functions definition, or you can change it according to your need, right? So need not to be the VM. So let me call it as a AZ. So this is AZ per day cost. Okay, so let me make this name as something AZ per day cost. I'm changing that value here, that is AZ per day cost, right? And then let me change the another variable in front of you. This is VM cost list. So VM cost list, we're gonna change it to so we're gonna change. So there are 15 tabs. So we're gonna change it to something like AZ underscore something like this. So AZ underscore cost list, right? I'm gonna replace with everywhere. All right. So everywhere you see that AZ cost list. Now our variable that is collecting the cost per day value is a list, and the variable name we have changed it to AZ underscore cost list, right? And that is what exactly being changed everywhere, right? Now that is exactly the function is all about. We have just now walked through. Now what I'm doing is I'm using this if loop and calling that particular function by passing the variables that you have seen it. Now let's try to execute this and try to see now what is the value I'm getting. So to execute this one, I would recommend you to first log in into your account so that it will reuse the credentials. This is we are running it from the local system, but when you run it from the automations solutions or in your application solutions, you might need to do differently. So far now I'm showing you from how to run it from the local system. So this is where I'm running this az login hyphen use device code, and then this is what it is returning me, where I have to put in these that code so that it will establish the session to my account. And when I put in that particular URL in the browser, I have to pass the code as well, that is it is printing. Once I click on that, it will ask me to reassure the account that it has to use it. And if that account has access, then only the context will be set in that context. So I have logged in and I'm expecting this to go green, in the sense the session has to be established. You see that if that login is responding something like this, which means that your current context is set to this particular subscription ID, particular tenant ID, right? And that is what it is all about. So this is basically set to this particular subscription ID. All right, so with that said, now I'm ready to execute this script. Okay, now what we have seen is here, so in this script, what I'm trying to do is I have a RG. I have shown you that I have a RG, and that RG has a two resources. So if I go to the resources, so this cost optimization AS, right? So that has a two storage account, and I have only these two storage account in my subscription. So I want to get the what is the cost per day for these resources individually. So that is what we're gonna do. We're running this particular script. So I'm gonna run this script by running this particular code. So this is my script. You see that this is the get cost of Azure resources.py file. So I'm running this particular script by running this one. So here it is actually throwing some error. It says that this function, that is azvm, is not defined. So there is a basically small error which we're gonna change it. So this is the function type is wrong. So the name of the function is wrong. So I'm gonna change that value, save it across, and rerun the script. So I'm rerunning this particular script and check if we are getting the response. So let me rerun it again. There is looks to be another error, that is in the line number 105. It says that is not defined. So let me recheck it. Since we have modified the code, that's the reason it is throwing the error. So I'm going to copy this and we go up and try to change the value here. So this is what we're going to change it now. um yeah, so let me make this. So basically this is the error is throwing because we have changed the name as per our convention. Now if I run it, it should work. You see that the code is now running, right? You see that currently it is actually giving me the start date and end date. So you see this one is nothing but the first day of the month, and current date is 16. And then you see that there are two outputs here. The first output, it is basically a raw output that is being retrieved from the Azure Python SDK. The below one is basically the fine grained the output. Okay, so if you look at the fine grained output, it is basically a list of dictionary. So the list of dictionary constitute of one dictionary. If you see this one, that is item number 0. So it has an ID. So this is nothing but my storage account ending with cost optimization AS. And the value per day, basically the cost of that particular storage account is 0.01 rupees. This is in rupees, by the way. And the resources, that is the another one. The another storage account is 0 because I have just now created it and it does not has anything, right? You know that the storage account is pay as you go. So I have not gone there. I have not used it. That's the reason the cost is not there. But for this resource, for this storage account, I got the ID. Okay, so to make it more precise and to make this particular, the code working as expected. So here, let me make the name very meaningful here. That is AZ per cost day. So let me remove this one. Um, AZ per day cost, and then we're gonna change it down the line as well. And then I'm remove this print up, so because I don't want the print, I want the neat output. That's the reason I'm just brushing up this particular code. And then we are changing the function, that is base function as well. Now change it. Now let me rerun it so that you get a proper input response. So here we are querying the cost on the subscription level for these dates, and we are getting the response that is exactly what we want, in the sense we are getting the how much my resource is casting per day. So that information is properly fetched. How it is fetched, it is fetching you a dictionary, and the dictionary has a key card. One key is talking about what is the ID of the resources. The other key is called as a cost, that is giving a value of that resources per day, right? So this is how you can elevate this script and try to use it in your solution, in your automation, in your analytics, everywhere. That's all for now. Thank you very much for watching my videos. Kind request, please do subscribe my channel. That would really encourage me a lot. With that note, thank you, thanks a lot, and see you in the next video.